gonna make this a dedicated video talking about riding 2-up on a Honda VF500F, one of the old Interceptors. Not that there's many left running around, but if anybody was interested, I thought I'm primed to give my 2 cents worth. For those of you that have clicked onto this vid because of the description and don't know me, I've had over 25 motorcycles in the last 28 years. I'm not a professional biker, but I do have quite a few years of experience on them, and I know motorcycles fairly well. Now, with that being said, let's get on with this topic. On the bike, me and my little lady riding behind me combined, we're about 300 pounds total weight. So that is something you always have to take into consideration, is what is your combined total weight. Me and her together is about 300 pounds. Actually, just a little less than 300 pounds. And I will have to say this right now, being a 1986 old Honda, the front and rear suspension are air adjustable, and both of them leak out air. You can air up the rear suspension, and within 30 minutes it's gone back to 0 pounds of air. So that's where I'm getting a lot of my harsh ride from. I cannot comment as to whether the bike would ride much smoother with with the rear shocks working, or the rear shock. I guess the monoshock in the rear. So I have to take that into consideration. I will say this: I am 5 foot, right on 5'11", just shy of 5'11". I've got a 32-inch inseam, and my legs being bent, my knees, I feel very, very cramped with the passenger behind me pushing me forward. Now, by myself, the design of this seat is absolutely exquisite. It is a extremely comfortable seat for one rider. The passenger, she seems to be really, really happy with the back seat of it, but this is a 2-up vid, so I will say that with both of you riding, of course, she's comfortable and I'm squished up against a fuel tank. It's just not quite long enough of a seat. Power wise, there is that. I mean, these things got 65, 68 horsepower or something like that. There is no power issues. Rolled on the throttle the other day. I didn't have it recording, but in just a jiffy we was at 75 mile an hour, and I mean, it wasn't long at all. So power wise, we are definitely good to go on that. Even if the suspension did help soak up some of the bumps better than what this does, I would say this is not a bike that you and a passenger would want to ride together for more than 2 hours at a time. If your trips are going to be 2 hours or under, it's survivable for the driver, and the passenger is comfy the whole time. The passenger could probably, if they're attuned to riding motorcycles, would probably be fine back there all day long. So yeah, for me, for the driver, the pallet, I like to call them, the pallet of the bike, yeah, it's a bit cramped. One thing I will say is the freaking mirrors are too short. I don't know that these are the factory mirrors. Little round mirrors. I guess I can look online and see. And we got a bicyclist. I've had a problem with these mirrors just with me riding. And then you put a passenger back there behind you, and sometimes their elbows and arms will get in the way. Of course, half the time they're trying to reach around you. So, yeah, the mirrors need to be a bit longer on this bike, that's for sure. Handling in the corners, again, my front suspension has no air in it. The handling is okay. One thing I have noticed now, even though I've got years and years of experience, I don't have a lot of experience riding passengers. I've got some, but not a lot. Most of my riding has been alone. But I will say that, like, staying planted through the corners, it does pretty darn good. It stays planted, but I feel a lot of wobble coming through the front end if the road is less than perfect. If you're on an old road like this, there's an awful lot of shake and feedback that I'd never have had on even the little Honda Helix scooter that I rode a passenger with, and on the V-Star 650 that I rode a passenger with. My brain cannot think back far enough to when I had the passenger on the Rebel 250 back in the early days. Seems to me like I never even thought about it, so I'm going to have to say it was probably okay. But I do feel a lot of wiggle through the handlebars on this. Now, I know that's a long vid. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me anything in specifics. Oh, one other thing before I shut this off that I did notice, I popped up on the back and just sat back here by myself one night and noticed that the passenger pegs are even higher up than the rider pegs, just a little bit in relationship to how far up the seat you are sitting. So if your passenger is long-legged, more than I would say anything more than a 30-inch inseam, that may present a problem. And my little lady, I don't know what her inseam is. I don't. I'm going to guess it to be probably 28, and she's fine.